On the morning of June 22, 2026, Keir Starmer walked out of number 10 Downing Street, stepped up to a lectern, and ended one of the shortest and most turbulent premierships in modern British history. His resignation came less than 2 years after his party secured a massive 172-seat majority in the Palace of Westminster, a mandate that vanished at breakneck speed. But his quick exit fits a relentless pattern. Before Starmer, the country churned through Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, Theresa May, and David Cameron. With former cabinet minister Andy Burnham now the runaway favorite to take over, the UK is on track to swear in its 7th prime minister in a single decade. This animated timeline compares the tenures of modern UK leaders with historical data. You have to look all the way back to the chaotic 1820s to find another stretch where Britain replaced its leaders at this accelerated pace. Which raises a difficult question. Are we watching a string of flawed politicians fail in sequence, or has the system itself become impossible to govern? To understand how a historic landslide unravels in under 24 months, we have to look at the mandate itself. Analysts call Starmer's 2024 victory a loveless landslide, a win built on a very thin base of actual support and largely driven by voters simply wanting the Conservatives out. This line graph maps public satisfaction with Keir Starmer against previous political basement levels. By late 2025, his net rating dropped to -66, sinking well below the previous record lows held by Rishi Sunak and John Major. The discontent came from all sides. He frustrated the left with controversial welfare cuts and a refusal to implement a wealth tax, while angering the right with high-profile speeches on immigration that he later had to walk back. Then the vetting scandals hit. Starmer appointed Peter Mandelson as ambassador to Washington, only to dismiss him when details of Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein surfaced. The fallout claimed Starmer's chief of staff and severely damaged public trust in his judgment. The breaking point arrived at the May 2026 local elections. Labour lost control of dozens of councils, hemorrhaged roughly 1,500 councillors, and watched its century-long dominance in Wales completely collapse. The electoral bleeding immediately triggered a cascade of cabinet resignations. Health Secretary Wes Streeting quit with a scathing public letter, declaring that the government had a vacuum where it needed a vision. Starmer absorbed the impact of all these overlapping failures, taking the fall for an electorate deeply frustrated with a political machine that seemed incapable of delivering tangible improvements. But pinning the blame entirely on one person misses the larger structural trap. Political scientists point to the 3 F's to explain the broader crisis: perceived failure, fraying relations between leaders and their MPs, and the severe fragmentation of the electorate. The economic constraints alone are suffocating. The economy is barely growing at all, while public sector net debt sits at a massive 94% of GDP. This bar chart visualizes the cost of government borrowing, known as gilt yields. The UK is currently paying a 4.8% yield on its 10-year bonds, significantly higher than the US, Germany, and Japan, which sharply limits how much money the Treasury can actually spend. On top of the economic straitjacket, the traditional two-party system is splintering. Voters are peeling off in multiple directions, defecting to the Greens, the Liberal Democrats, and the Scottish National Party. And this poll of polls visualization highlights the most aggressive insurgent, Reform UK. By June 2026, Reform led national polls at 27%, successfully absorbing much of the socially conservative, pro-Brexit coalition that propelled Boris Johnson to power back in 2019. Between the stagnant economy and a splintering electorate, public faith in institutions has flatlined. Only 12% of citizens currently trust the government to prioritize the national interest over party politics. These deep structural issues, crushing debt, rising borrowing costs, and a divided public, mean that swapping the nameplate on the Prime Minister's door won't cure the underlying rot. That daunting reality now falls to Andy Burnham. After serving as a Westminster cabinet minister, he left Parliament to become the highly popular Mayor of Greater Manchester, earning the nickname King of the North. He built his brand on a philosophy he calls Manchesterism, a pragmatic, business-friendly approach focused on highly visible local delivery, best represented by the bright yellow, re-regulated B-Network buses. He recently proved the electoral power of this brand by winning the Makerfield by-election, soundly defeating the Reform UK surge in a key battleground area. Yet popularity doesn't print money. The moment he takes office, Burnham will collide with the exact same slush growth and punishing bond markets that boxed in his predecessor. To project stability and keep those financial markets calm, the Labour Party is actively avoiding a prolonged, divisive summer leadership contest, opting instead to effectively crown Burnham unopposed. If his strategy of visible, hyper-local delivery fails to translate to the national stage and fails to cut into reform's polling lead, the political vacuum will return, and the revolving door will spin again. Burnham is widely seen as Labour's last pro of the dice. The new Prime Minister must prove very quickly that the British state can still function before the public gives up on the system entirely.